Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to your Calendars franchise mode here in NHL 25. So last episode, if you did not catch it, it was kind of a tough episode because we decided to part ways with longtime captain Anton Frondell. We sent him to the Dallas Stars in a pretty big blockbuster trade, which saw us got back some pretty decent prospects and also some picks and stuff like that. So I think it was a pretty good trade for our team to make at this point because obviously we haven't found a way to win with Frondell, so we decided to basically give a chance to guys like Crane on a higher up lineup. Also Ragnarsson, who was a really good rookie for the last half of the season last year, he'll get a higher chance this season because of the trade. So I think it was a good deal for us to make at that point. And like I said, we did get some good prospects back because we got Kazanov, who is a medium elite 74 left wing, right wing. So it's kind of nice that he can play both positions. He's only a two-way forward, so I don't really know if he's going to really be a huge offensive producer, but he was a top 10 pick a few years ago, or actually 1 year ago, I should say. So I think this guy should be pretty decent for us down the road. We also did pick up a top 6 forward prospect that's decent too, that being this guy named Mishenko. Now, the only problem with Mishenko is he's only top 6 and he's already 20 years old, but he's already 74, so I feel like he could still make it as a bottom 6 guy. He was drafted 2 years ago and also a top 10 pick. So I think these two players are decent players to obviously maybe make our lineup at some point. If not, they could easily be trade bait. Aside from that, we also picked up a couple picks in that deal, that being a first-round pick from Dallas this upcoming season, as well as 2 second-round picks. So I think we did pretty decent for ourselves. And obviously, Anton Frondell, great player when he was here, but he was starting to drop off a little bit in production. There's a chance that he will drop off in overall soon too. So we decided to cash out and give an opportunity to guys like Ragnarsson going forward. So it'll be interesting to see what this team can do in this next generation of the team. Obviously, we still have a lot of the core intact, and we still have a lot of good prospects and all that stuff, but moving on from Frondell was probably one of the toughest things we had to make in the series at this point in time. We also had a very good draft for our team too, which is another thing that was very nice to see. So we were able to draft a lot of good prospects, some of which will be in the AHL next season, some of which are not AHL eligible, but if you sort our prospect pool by potential, you can see basically a lot of the guys that we end up drafting. So Dempsey was one of our biggest steals in this draft class. He was an early second-round pick, 72 overall, low elite sniper. He already has an NHL ready shot, so I'm very excited to see how this guy develops. He won't be playing obviously in the AHL this upcoming season because he's not eligible, but he likely could be in our NHL team within one season, which is pretty amazing. So shout out to Nelson Dempsey. Very excited to see what he's like. We also drafted this guy named Esh, who's a 53 low elite playmaker, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, playmaker. So we'll see if this guy ends up developing into being much of anything too, but it gives us more center prospects, which is nice because obviously we'll need those at some stage. Aside from that, we also grabbed, I think it was a couple other low elites. I think we might have drafted this Hilbert guy. Was it Hilbert? No, it wasn't Hilbert. It was definitely Ramjit Singh then, right? Yeah, we drafted Rammer this year in the 7th round. He's 20 years old and a 56 only, so I don't expect him to become much, but it's once again another low elite prospect. We drafted Strombolopoulos, who's also a low elite two-way defenseman in the 1st round, so just a bunch of elite type of players, which is awesome to see. Now, one of the players that I was most excited about drafting in that last episode is going to be in the AHL next season, that being goaltender Komatov, who's also a 72 overall out of the draft as a medium elite potential goaltender. So we do have ourselves maybe the replacement for Solovyov, because I don't know if Nicholas will be that guy right away. It might take him a while to develop still. Scholz and Vishnevsky are decent AHL type of goaltenders, but I don't know if they'll be NHL type of guys. But yeah, I'm excited for Komatov, and I think he could definitely be one of those next goaltenders for his team. At some point, Nicholas probably should be as well, but I definitely think he's still at least like 3 years out before maybe he even makes the NHL. So going to be interesting to see what our prospect pool is looking like down the road. But right now, we have just so many elite players in both the NHL and AHL that it's actually kind of ridiculous. But anyways, with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into maybe making a couple of adjustments, because we need to make some adjustments so people could get some playing time. And it will assign also some free agent depth forwards probably for this team, and we'll get to the start of another season. So the first two and only comments are from Garage TV. The first one says, overall good draft. I would have given the lowly grinder a contract. Also didn't get close to the value you should have for Frondell. Kind of ripped yourself off. And I disagree that we ripped ourselves off, because I think that trade was actually a pretty good one for us. Like if I go back to I'll probably post if I remember about it in this video, a screenshot of the exact trade just so you guys could see it on paper again if you didn't watch the last episode, which hopefully you did if you're watching this episode. But let me see if I can get this on screen here. Yeah, there you go. The trade values to me looked pretty even when that trade went through. Basically, the Dallas Stars thought that they made out like gangbusters, but the trade value to me is pretty similar. Also, basically, Kazanov's a full-on replacement for Frondell, I would say, at least down the road if he pans out. Mishenko is just an extra tack-on prospect that could end up being decent for us. And then literally that first-round pick, if Dallas somehow has a bad season, literally could be a really good pick. The 2 second-round picks obviously could be low lead steals, so I really don't think we got gypped off that bad. I think it was a good little deal for our team to make. And obviously, maybe we could have taken 2 first-round picks instead of the 2 seconds or something like that. But I feel like, obviously, after you take 1 first, I feel like taking multiple firsts in a trade, sometimes it's kind of like taking advantage of the AI. Like when I made that Matt Barzal deal a few years ago, I felt a little bit guilty with how much we got back from the New Jersey Devils. So I just feel like it's a little bit more of a realistic trade than the AI says. Obviously, the AI is going to say that it made out like gangbusters because they got themselves a 93 overall right now, or 92. But I think as this deal progresses, it's going to look better for us because obviously that low elite or medium elite we got from this deal, he's going to end up getting a lot better. Meanwhile, Anton Frondell is going to be dropping off more so as the years go on. So I honestly don't think it was that bad of a trade. And I think Frondell is going to have a solid year in Dallas. But I think we got ourselves a pretty good replacement potentially in a few seasons as long as he develops well in the AHL. And then Garage was also just bringing up the fact that even Dallas said that they made out like bandits, and you could have probably got another first or 2. And I just don't think, like I said, it really makes much sense to get in multiple first-round picks for Frondell. I think because he was on the decline, I don't think a team would pay for 3 first-round picks for him. Like, if we look at his production over the last few years, obviously he's been a fantastic player when he's been really good, but do you think somebody would pay 3 first-round picks for a guy with 64 points after he only had 111 a few years back before that? Obviously, if he was still putting up 100 and something points a season, I'd say 3 first-round picks obviously would be worth it for Dallas. But since he's been on the decline in production, I don't know if he would be worth it for them. And then in the playoffs, obviously he's been good too. But is that worth the basically the 3 first-round picks, an elite prospect they drafted top 10, top 6 prospect that they drafted top 10? Like, I just don't know if it would be worth it really from the Dallas Stars perspective in that point. So even though they said they had a good trade, I don't know if they necessarily did. I think it'll help them out right now, but like I said, Frondell's going to likely be on the decline soon. So I don't know if it'll work out in the long run. Who knows if he even re-signs with them after these 2 seasons ahead. But there's a chance he might go to free agency by then. Maybe he's already retired by that point as well. We'll have to find out, I guess. But I think at least that was a nice little tidy bit of trading, in my opinion. So with that said, I think we're going to get into our moves for this episode, which we only have to make 1 trade in this episode, at least for now. Because our defensive core right now has too many guys that are basically ready to play on that defensive core. So if we look at our defensive core right now, you can see, as I hide my face again so you guys can see the overalls, technically our top 2 pairing will be the same, Houghton and Tatar. Second pairing, I'm likely going to go with Schaefer, Novoseltsev, or Schaefer, Holmstrom. Novoseltsev might be on the top 6 with Haken, something like that. But you can see that Rudder is here as well, and he's actually listed as a top 6 defenseman, which I don't really tend to agree with that he's a top 6 defenseman. He only played 4 games with us last season, 5 in the playoffs, but he's more of a physical defenseman, and he's not really going to help us out that much. Now, it's nice that he's a right-handed defenseman, but we have so many defensive prospects and stuff like that that are eventually going to take his spot too. So I think moving on from Rudder right now probably makes the most sense, just so that way we don't end up having to use somebody else as a depth defenseman, and so Rudder doesn't complain about his ice time basically. So we're going to probably trade Rudder to Columbus because Columbus does have themselves a depth defenseman that is actually a similar overall, similar age, and he's not listed as a top 6 on their team. So we're going to make a deal with the Blue Jackets, even though they're in our division. They have this guy named Hagman, as you can see. He's a right D-man and as well listed as a depth defenseman because he's 1 overall point worse. He's the exact same age. Never played in the NHL yet so far at this point, but he's probably better defensively. He's also not going to take as much penalty minutes like in the AHL. Maybe he will take a decent amount of penalty minutes, but he's not an enforcer defenseman, so I think Antti-Hagman could be a decent little pickup here, and at least a little bit more of what we need. And like the trade values are pretty close on this too, so I think it might honestly just go through as is, and then basically we change a top 6 defenseman into a depth defenseman, and then we don't really need to worry about basically finding ourselves another depth defenseman in the free agency instead. And Hagman is one of these type of players that I probably won't hold on to long term either. Likely he gets replaced by a prospect in the next few seasons as well. But for right now, we just need to basically change out a top 6 defenseman so he doesn't complain about his ice time for a depth defenseman who should be okay with his ice time. If he starts to complain as well, we might not have anything we could do about it. But I think this is a good little move for both teams. Helps out Columbus a bit better defensively because their defensive core is kind of weak at this point. And we get ourselves a depth defenseman that could basically just be a healthy scratch and play when we need him to play. So, will this work on its own? Yes, it will. Okay, perfect little trade there. Nice little lateral move. I think it makes sense for both teams. Obviously, it kind of sucks to trade away Rudder in a way because I was looking forward to him as an enforcer defenseman to punch some faces and all that. But since he's listed as a top 6 and not a depth defenseman, it kind of made it a little hard for me to actually hold on to him because of that. Because I would prefer him not be like a full-time defenseman as an enforcer. The only way we'd be able to hold on to him as a full-time defenseman is if basically we wanted to part ways with somebody like Schaefer, Novoselicev, or Holmstrom. That's the only way. And I don't think there's any way I would get rid of any of those defensemen right now. Like, Schaefer wasn't super good last season, but he was really good the seasons before. Novoselicev was brilliant in the playoffs in terms of plus-minus. Holmstrom is only getting his feet wet in terms of offensive play. So I think Holmstrom probably will get even a chance on the power play on the second unit this season. So I think, obviously, by making that move, I think it just makes us a little bit better suited for defensive core. Obviously, we still have a bunch of guys that are listed as top 4, so some people might still complain about ice time, which is one thing I'm a little bit worried on. But I'm hoping that, obviously, by having maybe somebody like Novoselicev on the top penalty kill unit, having Schaefer maybe on a top penalty kill unit, Holmstrom on a power play unit, those guys don't complain. And then, obviously, Tatar and Houghton, these two guys will get a lot of ice time, which should be okay with them as well. Because Tatar is definitely going to be on one of the top penalty kill units. Houghton's probably going to be on the 3rd penalty killing unit, but the top power plays, so he shouldn't complain too much. And yeah, the ice time should be pretty good for the defensive core, which is nice. So that's the defensive core taken care of. The last thing we need to take care of in this offseason before we get to the season, I think, is free agents. We only have one RFA at the moment that needs a contract, and we're going to still wait on him. That is Bigris, if I'm not mistaken. Let me actually see here, right? It was just Bigris. Yeah, just Bigris. So he should accept relatively soon. He won't be too expensive. But the players that we need is some depth forwards. Kind of just like 77 overall kind of guys that could just come in our lineup if we have any like injury problems. So that's what we're going to look for. So we're going to look for a center and a winger because that's typically what I do when I look for depth forwards. So let's see what we could find here. See if there's anybody decent, like defensively or something like that. Haley is a depth forward. Okay, he is a sniper. I mean, it's not a bad idea to have a depth forward that's a good offensive player too. Last season he had 43 points. That's actually really good. That's really good. I mean, he is 29 years old though. But 43 points last year, 20 points the year before that. Obviously got some power play time this up last season. Playoffs, 4 points in 14 playoff games. He's honestly not that bad offensively. Like, he's not the most insane offensive player, but still. His defensive awareness is okay. His stick checking is okay. I don't know if he's going to help us out defensively much, but definitely could score goals if he's thrown in during an injury. And he's not very expensive either. So I think we're going to go for him. I really hope he's not listed as a 4th liner at the start of the season because that'd be kind of annoying. But let's just give him what he's asking for. Riley Haley, let's bring you in. Boom. Thank you. Welcome aboard. And then in terms of a winger, I probably prefer somebody that could play both sides if possible, but it doesn't have to be somebody that plays both sides. Is there any left wing, right wings down here? It doesn't seem like it. We do have a lot of left wing, right wings already on our team, so maybe there's just not a lot of them out there. How about a right wing, left wing? Alex Holtz is an 80. Don't really need Alex Holtz. Bakos. Max Bakos. Is he real? No, he's definitely not because he was drafted 9 years ago. Two-way player. Good stick checking. Very good stick checking, I should say. Good shot blocking. Defensive awareness is a little low, but how is he? 32 points last season. That's actually pretty good, too, after a lot of AHL time. Yeah, you know what? This guy might be a decent depth option. I know he's only a 77. Oh, he's listed as a fourth liner, though. That's the one thing he'd complain about his ice time if he was scratched, so I can't bring him in, really, without maybe some complaints. There's not a lot of right wing, left wings. Rajah Law's a minor checking forward, so I definitely wouldn't bring him in. I guess we're not going to find a guy that can play both sides, but that's all right. Let me go to right wingers then, because I prefer right wingers. Maybe that shoot left. Maybe that's something we could do. What about Kuhlman? Artem Kuhlman is listed as a depth forward. He's a sniper as well. I prefer maybe a better defensive depth option in this last one. Jarvis was that guy last year for us. Maybe we could bring back Brendan Jarvis. How good was his takeaway numbers and all that out of curiosity? Not bad. 12 and 12. Yeah, he's actually pretty good at taking away the puck quite often. Doesn't throw a lot of hits. Doesn't block a ton of shots. I'm trying to think if I want to bring back Jarvis or not. He's not a bad option. You know what? Let's bring back Jarvis. It's just a one-year deal. It's only $1.9 million. It's a bit more expensive than I would normally pay for a depth forward, but let's bring him back to the organization again, just because a lot of people know him already, so it will be good. Neil Kine's already gained some morale because of it, too, so I think that's our only two signings we're going to make because we don't really need too much else in terms of both the NHL and AHL. So the only thing we're waiting on is the RFA contract. Do we need any coaches this offseason? I don't think so, right? I know that we need to make a tough decision with who's going to be the next captain of this team, but I already kind of know who is probably going to be the next captain of this team, which I will show you guys at the start of the season, probably. Jenks 64. Did I offer any contracts out in the last episode to a coach? I don't think so, right? I think I was mentioning about potentially bringing in a new coach, right? Wasn't I? I don't know. Maybe that was in my other series that I was thinking that. There is, who is it? Cyrus Weber is a 64. Maybe we want to bring in one more coach just to give us a little bit more depth. I'm trying to think if I want to do that or not. Did I offer a coach a contract in the last episode? I don't think so, right? No, contracts offered, it says none. So if I temporarily demote let's just temporarily demote the goalie coach in Hansel. Actually, we have only one spot available, so I'd have to fire somebody probably to try and offer a new coach a contract. Do I really want to bring in a new coach? I feel like Jenks has been good for us, though, really good. And he's 64 as well. So you know what? I'm going to keep the coaching staff the same, I think. I don't think there's anything I need to change with that. Maybe at some point we change it, but right now I just don't think it's what I want to do. So, but let's go to the end of the month and see if the RFA accepts. If he doesn't, obviously we'll maybe give him his contract already. But I already have in mind who's going to be the next captain of this team. And I kind of alluded to it in last episode who should be the next captain. And I think based on looking at the morale and seeing who's the leader on this team, I think we already have basically the next captain already written in stone. And then the assistant captains I kind of have in mind too, if they aren't already. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how good our team does without Frondell, because obviously Frondell's been here a long time. But we are going to have to kind of turn the page a little bit without him. So Biggers already accepts, which is good. But yeah, we're going to have to turn the page without Frondell. I think we're going to be still super strong without him. Obviously, that second line was really good in the playoffs with him on it. But at the same time, I think giving Ragnarsson an elevated role for an entire season should do just as good. Because we saw what he could do last year in 40-something games. I think he could definitely come in and play good for us the rest of the year as well. So I'm excited to see what he can do this season. And I think this team definitely will easily make it back to the playoffs again. I think that's a certain thing, but I'm not too sure still if our team has enough juice in it. Still, I don't know if it's, what's the problem still with our team in terms of winning in the postseason? Were we cursed because we had Frondell here since the losing days? Maybe, but it's hard to say. Alright, so first and foremost, let's make sure everybody in the NHL is in the NHL that should be. Everybody that's in the AHL is in the AHL as well. So in terms of our goaltending, obviously it's going to be Solovyov and Letowski. AHL, it's going to be Schultz, Komatov, Vishnevsky's going to be scratched. But if there's any injuries, obviously he comes into the lineup, so that is good. So Schultz, the high fringe starter, is actually getting kind of close to being NHL ready too. So we might have a little bit of a logjam in net. And at some stage, we might have to think about Solovyov moving on from this organization. So that's interesting. Defensively, we got to call up Hagman as the depth defenseman. I am going to not send down any defensemen because Haken's going to be actually higher than a 76. It says 76 right now, but I think it's because of morale. He'll be okay. We do need to send down a depth forward, though. For sure, because I think we have too many forwards up here. So that looks good with Nielakainen, Ellington, Sundin, Jarvis. Crane, Ragnarsson, Sealfedo, Biggers looks okay. Mackinnon, oh, yeah, we might have one too many forwards. I thought we didn't have that many forwards. So let me look at the forwards again for a second. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And that's 14. So that'd be 2 depth forwards. Do we have 7 defensemen already in the NHL? No, we don't. Oh, maybe we can just call him up. Okay, maybe we were under the amount. I thought we were under the over the amount when I called up Hagman, but never mind. So that looks good. Haken is going to be definitely playing on that top 6 pairing. Holmstrom, Schaefer, Novoseltsov, we need to make sure we can find their ice time good. And Tatar and Houghton, we should easily be able to. So that's good on defense. Forwards, is there anybody that should be up here? Ulanov is listed as a 4th line forward. That's the one thing I was worried about, is him being actually listed as a 4th liner. Because hypothetically, by that standpoint, he should be in the lineup and knocking somebody like Sundin out of the lineup, and then Sundin could be a depth option. Sundin is 25 at this point. He's not going to get much better, but Sundin's very good defensively, at least in terms of awareness. Not in his stick checking or shot blocking. Trying to think of what I want to do here. I could send down Jarvis and use Sundin as a depth forward, because Ulanov is already 24. He should get at least a little bit of playing time. Maybe we'll see how he is. I'll send down temporarily Jarvis for the time being. But I'm going to just temporarily do that. I know I just signed Jarvis for a depth forward option, but I didn't realize Ulanov was going to be ready to go. But at the same time, Ulanov might still be kind of more of a scratch. But I might scratch Sundin over Ulanov. Left wing side of things, anybody that needs to come up? No, that's all good. Centers, Prince is kind of close, but he's 28 years old at this point. He's not going to get much better. There's nobody else here. Okay, let's go best lines in the AHL and NHL and see what we're working with in terms of our lineup. So I would be taking Sundin out of the lineup. I know he's good defensively, but I do think Ulanov as an elite player should be in. But the only thing about that is then I need to scratch Haley, which will move Korolyuk to the middle. Haley will come on out. And we will probably throw in Ellington on this 4th line. Ellington's a left-handed shot, so that should be okay, hypothetically. So this is what I would think I'm going to run with for the start of the season. Something similar to this, but we are going to make some adjustments. Bjorkstrand dropped down to an 86. Ugh. I am a little bit worried with Bjorkstrand a little bit. Ragnarsson on the 2nd line actually could be a good thing. I do like the look still of our top 9 quite a bit without Frondell. Gives a chance for guys like Sealfedo to really show themselves more. So something like this could be good. Defensively, we obviously should be going with Houghton and Tatar. We'll go with Schaefer and Novoseltsov on that 2nd pairing. Maybe not. Ooh, what if I go with Novoseltsov and Holmstrom? Okay, so Schaefer might honestly be a top 6 defenseman, but I need to put him on the 1st line penalty kill or something like that, or else he might complain. So, it's hard to make sure everybody's getting the right ice time on this team. And scratch, these guys are all depth options, correct? Yes, okay, so that's good at least. So I think that's not that bad. But we do need to make sure on the power play that these guys are getting their ice time. So Houghton obviously is a power play kind of guy. Holmstrom getting some power play time on the 2nd one is good. I don't know about having Korolyuk on the power play or Nielakainen for that matter. So we got to get Leahy on this power play unit for sure. So I am going to move Bjorkstrand, I think, back to the point. And we're going to move Korolyuk over... Actually, let's take Korolyuk just completely off. Put Leahy here. Who else should be on the power play unit? Who is not on a power play unit? See, Feed already is. Crane, Makinen, Houghton, and Giordano. So that's already most of the top 6. Maybe I could give one of the defensemen a power play time. Maybe I could get Schaefer power play time. Maybe I'll just do 2 defensemen on the second unit. So that way Neil Kynan... Even though Neil Kynan was good goal scoring wise last season, maybe it's a better way of getting guys ice time that need ice time on defense. We'll try it at least to start. It's not a huge issue. Second unit, we will do the same thing here. We are going to take Korolyuk out. Give Schaefer some time there too. So that way he's hopefully okay with his ice time. And then from a penalty kill perspective, Novoseltsov on the first unit makes sense. That way he doesn't complain too much. Holmstrom's already on a power play as well, which is good. Holmstrom on the second penalty kill with Houghton. And I don't really know about having 2 offensive defensemen on the same penalty killing unit, to be honest. So with this one, we will probably put Schaefer on this unit. Actually, maybe I'll put Haken on that unit so he doesn't complain too much. Third unit, we'll go Schaefer, and we'll go with Holmstrom on this one as well. I just don't want 2 OFDs on the same penalty killing unit. So that should be okay. That should be okay. Yeah, I think that's what we'd run with. So we'll see how that simulates. And then in terms of the AHL, let's just make sure everybody's kind of in the right spots here. Who is scratched that shouldn't be? Vishnevsky's okay to be scratched, even though he's a good AHL goalie. We already have Komatov and Schulz, so that should be good. Any high-end prospects need to be higher in the lineup. This guy's not a guy I even drafted, so that's fine. Okay, so some of these low elites need to move Rokan down, basically. So we'll get DeRocher up and throw him up there because he's way better prospect. Savage is a low elite too. Hall is not a guy I drafted, I don't think. Or is he? Oh, he is a player I drafted, 2nd round. So maybe I should just keep him up there for the time being. Kadri is getting pretty old at this point, so he doesn't need to be super high, but we could still keep him up there. Gazanov's in a good spot. Gazanov should be in a good spot to produce on that top line for the AHL. Defensively, maybe we just get rid of the minus here on the second unit. I don't know if I could really get rid of it. Yeah, I don't know if there's a way I could get really rid of this. This is okay. Yeah, we'll go with this. This is fine. So there is the AHL. We'll see how that ends up doing. But the NHL looks still pretty damn stacked. And Ragnarsson's getting a big shot this year in that top 6. Is he on a power play unit? I want to double check that. Maybe I forgot to put him on a power play unit. No, he is on a power play unit. All right. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that is fine. Yeah. All right, so every lineup should be good. Let's double check what the coaching staff says. I'll go obviously to set the captains in a little bit here if it's not set up the way I want to already. But in terms of coaching staff, let's see how good the team fit is with Jenks again. Is it high up again? It should probably be, right? 69%, that's pretty solid. It's not like above 70, but still 69 is good. We'll see if that ends up helping our team or not. If we need to, we could always bring in some more coaches, but I think our coaching staff's good. I think our team is good. It's just all about now getting actually a good simulation in the postseason. So hopefully that's this season. So the captains of the team, where do I find this again? Oh yeah, right here. So I first want to go to show you guys the morale so you guys can see who is going to be named the next captain of the team. That player, as you can see, sorted by chemistry, that is going to be Kevin Crane. He's actually listed as a leader too. And it was between him and also Houghton for the next captaincy. Now, when I looked at this last, the chemistry, Makinen was a presence and Houghton was a presence. So I think the leadership group for this team, Crane, Makinen, and Houghton, will be those 3 captain kind of guys. So Crane's going to be the captain of the team, at least for this year, maybe for future years to come as well. But I think he's a guy that deserves it. So let's go to the captains and see if he's actually the captain of the team, which right now, he is the captain of the team. Okay, so that's good. But I am going to be demoting Bjorkstrand and Giordano because we are going to be giving it to Houghton. I feel like Houghton's been a really good player for us these last few years. He deserves it more than anybody else. Bjorkstrand's been dropping off a little bit here, so that's not great. And I'll also give it to Mäkinen because Mäkinen has also been a good leader with this team too. So that's going to be our leadership group going into the season. Also, if you guys want to know about random players' jersey numbers, let me just skim through this so you guys can see all the numbers on this team. So there is that. So that is what we're going to do for the season. I think Crane as the captain is a good call. We do need to jump into a preseason game. I almost forgot about that, because I do need to get a screenshot of Crane so I could use him in the thumbnail. So we are going to have to do that. I hope that the stats don't glitch out because of that, but at least it's only a preseason game. But we will jump into it briefly just so I could get a screenshot of him out there. And then after that, we'll actually simulate some of the season 2. So this might be a little bit of a long episode because of that, but I do need to make sure I get a screenshot of him. So in terms of the preseason focus, we are just going to go on, I guess it was, when did we normally do? It wasn't conditioning because we're not a super old team yet, so we don't necessarily need to do that. I think 5v5 focus should be okay. Let's do that. Boom. And season goal, what do you think about our team, Jalen? We're good enough to compete for the cup? I agree. I think this team definitely could win a Stanley Cup this season, but obviously the game might have other ideas. Alright, so let's just decline this trade offer because we're not going to make any trades before the start of the season. Let's decline this again too. But yeah, we're definitely going to jump into the first preseason game just so I could wait until I could find an opportunity to get a good screenshot of Crane as the captain of this team. And we'll use him as the thumbnail for this video in your episodes to come as well. So let's go here, play game, and that way we could get a screenshot of him in game. There's Houghton. He's technically our top player. That actually looks kind of interesting. Houghton as an A. I like to see that. I think he deserves it a lot because he's been one of our best players offensively the last few years. That's why he's getting the A. Crane's been a great leader on this team apparently. He's also been scoring goals. So let's remove my face from here. And like I said, I'm just going to go into this and see if there's an opportunity to get a good screenshot of Crane out there. So I'm excited to see what we could get for him for this thumbnail. Obviously getting him on home ice I think is going to be better too than on the road. So he should get the puck quite early on into this one since he's on this top line, obviously with Mäkinen and Giordano. Okay, give it to Crane, please, and then I'll get him on this. There he is already, but is it good enough? Probably not. Let's let him turn around a bit, and let's jump back in here and see if I can get him there. Oh, man, he looks pretty good. I don't know about wearing number 2 as a forward, to be honest. I know it's kind of, there's players that do that nowadays, but eh. Oh, yeah, look at that. There's the man. That's the screenshot right there. And then I just basically got to crop him out, and then he'll be on this thumbnail, and you guys will know where it's from and all that. So there is that. We are going to quit out of this game. I don't care too much about preseason games at all. So we'll just simulate through the rest of that preseason game. And then we'll get into the actual season sim and stuff like that, see how good this team does. But we'll probably simulate, I feel like we might simulate half of the season, but it depends really on how we do as a team. If we do really good, maybe we keep on simulating as much as possible. If we don't do as good, maybe not. But we are only 33 minutes into this recording, so I don't feel like I need to necessarily take it as fast as possible too. So preseason, we go 5-2. The only one that we lost other than that Penguins game was apparently the first game of the season, our preseason, where I jumped in to watch and get that screenshot. So let's take a look at our player stats from the preseason just to see if anybody was doing bad on this team and anybody was doing really good. So looks like the top line guys were doing good. Mäkinen had 12 points. Crane had 11, including 8 goals. Hopefully it's a big year for Kevin Crane. He's still signed here long term too, so that's another good thing about him being the captain. Giordano, 9 points. Only 1 goal as a sniper is pretty bad, but he had 8 assists, so I'm not going to complain. Houghton on 6 points. Cialfido 6 points. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for this team. Everybody did a good job. What about goalies? 923 from Solovyov, and then Letowski played a part of 1 game, made 3 saves in 9 minutes. Alright, so Solovyov might have a huge year this year. There's a chance on that. Now, when he's played good during the regular season, his playoff numbers haven't been usually as good, but the last 2 years he's been pretty good in the playoffs as well. So we'll see if this is another big year from Solovyov. Soon enough, he might be on the drop-off because he is 31 years old. He's now the oldest player on this team with Frondell leaving. So we'll see what ends up happening with him being our goalie in the future. But let's get to this regular season. Like I said, we'll probably simulate to maybe halfway through the season. Really depends on how we simulate as a team, but I'm very excited to see how this roster does without Anton Frondell. Also, I'm excited to see how Dallas does with Anton Frondell on that roster. Like, are they going to be a playoff team this year, or are they not going to be a playoff team? Is he going to find a way to win a Stanley Cup in Dallas before he did with us? Something like that. But let's go to the end of October, see how we do in our first 7 games of the season. Let's see how we do. First game against Pittsburgh, 3-1 loss. That's not ideal, but it's one game. Not going to complain, as Magnuson is on waivers. Who is this? 79 overall, 25 medium top 60. If I had the use for defenseman, I would technically claim this guy, but I don't have the use for defenseman, so we will not claim him. We do beat Colorado in our second game of the season, as there's another guy on waivers, Ivan Kravchenko, another defenseman, who is a 74, low top 4 at 24. This guy's definitely not panning out. We're not going to claim him. He's nowhere near as good as the other guy. Florida, another guy on waivers. Damn, a lot of people are putting people on waivers early on. Jalen Reese, another defenseman, 76 overall depth defenseman, 25 years of age. Don't need him either. Former first-round pick, but not going to develop, it looks like. Florida in Game 3 of the season, we win 4-2. Tampa in Game 4 technically, we lose 4-1, so 2-2 in our first 4. We do beat Minnesota in a shootout. Montreal, we win by a goal. And Anaheim to wrap up October is also a win. So a bit of an interesting start in the first 4 games. But now we are all of a sudden 5-2. This is pretty decent so far. Looks like we're playing a good defensive brand of hockey, because even our losses haven't been egregious. 3-1's not egregious. 4-1 maybe a bit more egregious. But a lot of our games have been pretty close so far this season. Alright, well, let's keep it going. Let's go to the end of November. See how we're at that point. Hopefully keep the momentum going. 6-3 win over Carolina. Nice to see. But I feel like our defensive play is going to be one of our staples of this roster. I feel like also offense is going to be good too, but it's tough to tell because some of these games, obviously, we don't score a lot, but then we have games that we score like 7 goals in, so a little bit more inconsistent probably with our goal scoring department maybe. Second round pick for a guy named Games in a 6th. I have no use for another player right now, but I do appreciate the offer. I feel like this team is good enough that we might not even need to make any trades this season, but honestly, you never know with the sim engine and in terms of the playoffs. Because sometimes when you don't make trades, I feel like it doesn't benefit your team at all in terms of the postseason. Sometimes when you do make too many trades, you become worse. Speaking of getting worse, we do have an injury to the youngster and Matty Hagen, who is only playing in his first NHL season. He will be out with back spasms. Only out for like a week or so, but let's go replace player on that. That'll give Hagman some ice time. But at the end of November, we are 15-5-1. Which is pretty damn good. This is exactly kind of what I expected from this roster. We are currently the second best team in the NHL, only behind the Seattle Kraken at the moment. And didn't Seattle win the Cup last year? Yeah, they did. They did, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of funny that the best team in the NHL right now is the Cup winner from last year. So who knows, maybe we have a chance to play them in the Stanley Cup Finals this season. But we're 21 games in. Yeah, I think we're going to probably go to halfway point of the season. I think that's always a good point to go to, regardless, just so that way we can kind of see how we do in the first half, see if there's any problems that need to be addressed. So let's go through this month as well. As Haken is back, so that's good news. I wonder how Haken's doing with this roster. Hopefully pretty good. Sealfito's jumped back up to an 87. Ragnarson's obviously still at 85, but looks like the top 6 must be doing well if Sealfito's jumping up. I'm not too sure. But, yeah, Sealfito is definitely one guy that I want to hold on to long-term still if we can, because he's one of the best setup guys on this roster, too. And I'm pretty sure one of his contracts comes to an end relatively soon, too. Like, how many years does Sealfito have left? It is this year. Yep, so this offseason, we're going to have to give him a big contract. I think he has 1 year of RFA status, so we will probably give him a big-time contract. I probably should be doing it sooner rather than later. That's the only thing. Because if we don't do it sooner rather than later, he's going to demand even more so money. But, yeah, our team's doing good this season. I'm not too sure what's our main struggle right now, but there's probably something. And there's another injury, and that's not a good one. That's to a top 6 player in Ragnarsson. Obviously, he was really good last year. Almost could have won Rookie of the Year if he played more games. but he's out with an upper body injury for like a week or so. So we're going to go replace player, I guess, because that depth forward that we brought in, that's a sniper. I think he'll help us out offensively quite a bit in that same spot. So I think it's not a huge issue when we have him in. Now, we are losing a bit of games without Ragnarsson, but it's not the end of the world. So let's decline that trade offer. Edmonton's 2-1 shootout loss. It's a point. I'll take it. Then they offer us a trade. No, thank you, Edmonton. We don't need to make a trade after we lost to you. Florida is going to be a shutout win. And Buffalo to wrap up December. 6-5 win. 22-9-3. Actually, we're still in December, so it is actually a little bit of a longer-term injury than I thought with Ragnarsson. But 47 points has us up 1 point up on the Blue Jackets with one more game played in the Metropolitan Division, which means Rutter's team is doing good despite that weak defensive core. In terms of the entire league, we are probably third place because the Kings are above us and the Kraken are still in first place. So the Kraken are still doing great. We will simulate 7 more games, and it will be at the exact halfway point. So 4 games this week, 3 games this week. Let's see if we could maintain a less than 10 regulation losses at the halfway point. Because right now we're almost close to 25 wins. Let's see, this next game there's 25 wins. Calgary, another win. This team's looking really good. Looking really good. Obviously, regular season doesn't mean anything until the playoffs, but I feel like our defensive numbers have improved a lot this season for some reason. 29-9-3 halfway through the year. We're on 61 points. We're 5 points up on the Jackets now with one more game played. And we are technically the best team now in the NHL as we have passed the Seattle Kraken at the halfway point. So that's good. That's good. We might be on pace to win a President's Trophy, which might not be good, but so far this team's looking like they're doing good stuff. Now, what I'm curious on is what is wrong with this team so far. Like, are we doing anything bad at the moment? Or is everything working out well? According to our stats here on the matchup side of things, we are 7th in goals for, so offense has been good. But look at the goals against. 2.66 goals against per game. We are the second best defensive team. We're actually playing the best defensive team next, which is the LA Kings. They are first with 2.56, so both good defensive teams. Power play percentage hasn't been super good this season, which is kind of surprising because our offense is top 10. So power play should improve. If it doesn't, maybe we make some adjustments, but it's not a huge issue, maybe. 10th on the penalty kill is good too, though. So the one thing that's been right is the power play. But does it need to be addressed? I don't know. Just because we're still good 5-on-5 at least. So let's take a look at some stats here through 41 games. Looks like Bjorkstrand's having a redemption season. He's over point per game. He's our only player over point per game as well at the moment. Plus 17. Yeah, he's been pretty damn good. And he's back up to an 89. So maybe last year was just a bit of a fluke year because he was injured. But he's already got more points than last year in 10 less games. Or maybe it's because we're using him. Are we using him as a center? I think we are. Maybe he's just naturally better when he's a center. I'm not too sure. Now, last year he was playing center too. It's hard to say if he's better as a winger or a centerman, but yeah, good stuff from Bjorkstrand. Love to see that. Mäkinen's on 39 points, so he's very close to point per game. Giordano on 33 points. He's been close to point per game. Leahy's on 28 points. And he's still okay with his ice time? Looks like it. The only morale he's losing is because of individual performance and because we traded away Rutter. So, looks like Leahy's having a good time as a third-line center. He's doing really, really well. And that's why we gave him that contract, even though I was a bit skeptical in the last episode. But $5.8 million is not bad. He also gave us 8 teams he can be dealt to, which we should be able to trade him away to any of those teams if we need to at some point. So, there's that. Korolyuk, 13 points. Not bad. That's actually a career high already maybe for him, right? Yeah, it is pretty much a career high. Not too bad. Is he losing morale? Yeah, he is. He's listed as a third-line scoring forward. Oh, boy. So if we wanted to make a trade, getting rid of Korolyuk and finding somebody that could actually not complain about ice time might not be a bad idea. Now, the depth forward in Haley, who we brought in, has been absolutely awesome. 12 points and 6 goals in 14 games. Obviously, he was getting a chance to play in the same spot where obviously our injury was to Ragnarsson, but damn, he's been good. But We could always put Haley in the lineup as a fourth-line center. He actually is listed as a third-line scoring forward now, too. Oh, man. But he's okay with his ice time right now because he's playing in the lineup. So Haley in the lineup and we move out Korolyuk, or do we just not care that those guys want more ice time? Because Haley's okay with his ice time right now, but once he's back to being scratched again, he's going to complain. Korolyuk right now is already kind of complaining. So I'm a little bit worried on that. Left wing side of things, Crane on 35 points. Only 13 goals for Crane this year. So he became the captain and decided to start scoring less goals. Last year he had 40 goals, and the year before that 40 goals. But this year he's only on pace for 26. Which is kind of weird. I don't know if moving out Frondell is the reason, but they weren't on the same line at all, really. So, kind of surprised on that. Hopefully he does better in the second half in terms of goal scoring, but at least his hybrid production's good. Sealfido on 34 points, 3 goals only, which is pretty low, but 31 assists. So Crane's being a good setup guy, but obviously his contract comes to an end this offseason, so we got to think about how much money to spend on him. He's been still good, though. 23 points in 27 games for Ragnarsson. He is injured, but he will be back soon. And, yeah, he's been very good through 27 games. And in his regular season career, he's got 64 points in 68 games. Absolutely brilliant regular season stuff. Playoff-wise, still needs to find his game a bit. But, yeah, I'm really liking the way Ragnarsson is with this team. And he has one more year left on his ELC. Biggers on 16 points. He's been solid. Right wing side of things, Neil Kine's only on 10 goals, but he's not on the power play anymore. 15 points. Ellington on 10 points, and Ulanov on 8. It's not too bad. Anybody here would complain about their ice time? Wait, did I just see? Yeah, Neil Kinen's listed as a second line forward, and he's not liking his ice time. He's playing third line. I might have to get him on the power play so he wouldn't complain. Maybe that's an adjustment we make. We put him back on that second line power play unit. So that way he's okay with his ice time. But I don't really like that people like Ellington and all that really expect more ice time. Because Ellington's also losing morale because of ice time at the moment. So we might have to make some sort of moves. We don't necessarily have to. Because we still have only halfway part of the season left to go, and then it's playoffs and all that. But some of these guys might have to be let go of in the offseason. Like Ellington signed for 2 years, same with Neil Kinen. We could prioritize one or the other maybe. I'm not too sure. From a defensive standpoint, Houghton's on 34 points in 41 games, plus 21. Probably on pace to win another Norris Trophy, my guess. 30 years old now for Houghton too, which is kind of insane, and he's that old at this point, but he's been such a great defenseman for this team. He's on pace for 68 points this year. Tatar's on 21 points. He's been good. Schaefer's much better defensively this year than he's been in the past. Holmstrom hasn't been still producing on a crazy level. He's on pace for 24 points, which is a bit better than last year, but we are giving him power play time, and he's not doing too much with it. Haken on 11 points, plus 21 for the youngster. That's good. Novoseltsev on 6 points. Hagman on plus 3 in 2 games. Not bad. Any defenseman not happy? Looks like they're mostly all happy with their ice time, so I'm good with that. From a goaltending perspective, Solovyov's on a .916 save percentage. So Solovyov's looking good again this year. Good goals against too at 2.34. Letowski hasn't been good this year like he was last year, but he's got an 8-1 record, so I'm not going to complain too much. But he's definitely not as strong as he was last year for us when we brought him in from the Ducks. So he's still only kind of like a goalie that's only here just basically until we get a goalie prospect ready, but still. Expect maybe a little bit better stats from him. But yeah, Solovyov right now is building off these last few years. Last year he was really good. The year before, not as much, but his playoff numbers as of recent have been better too. He's starting to put it together, which is good. And he's only signed for 2 more years. Obviously, he's won a Vezina recently too, so maybe another Vezina of the season is in his bag. Tough to say. Let's take a look at stats around the league briefly too while we're at it. Might as well. Who's leading the league in points right now throughout the entire NHL? Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, 60 points apiece. 54 points from Guerin, 37 goals in 37 games. God damn. All right. That's pretty insane. Wait, did I just see what I thought I saw? What the hell is this? How is Wallace on 51 points in 38 games? This guy did not do that when he was with our team. You guys remember Wallace? He jumped up to an 86. Literally didn't do anything with us, and all of a sudden 3 years in New York, he had a 95-point season. And now this year he's on pace for over 100 points. Holy moly. Okay, well, shout out to Wallace. I guess he likes playing with the Rangers better with the Islanders. He's making $14 million. Oh, no, New York. I feel like this contract's going to be so bad in a few years. Like, he might be producing right now crazy good, but I don't know if in the future he will. That's insane, though. I did not expect him to be that type of player when he left us. I don't think anybody had that in their bingo card. Best goal scorer so far this season is Guerin. He's probably playing next to Guerin. That's the reason. Yeah, Wallace is definitely the right winger to playing with Guerin. And in their center is who? Bowl? Nope, not Bowl, not Foy. Not Archipov. They definitely have to have a center up here, right? Casper, no. Fantilli, no. Berkeley Caton? No. I wonder who their center is. Interesting. Best defenseman in terms of points so far is Korchinski, only by 3 points. So Kevin Korchinski right now might be the Norris favorite, but Houghton definitely I think could still win it in the second half if he just puts up a lot of points again, which I think he could definitely do as long as he stays healthy. But he's definitely going to be a finalist, I think, again this season. Shout out to Salmelainen. Salmelainen in Colorado is doing really well now, too. So a lot of our former guys are actually playing good in our teams, which is nice. But Salmelainen hasn't played with us in a few years. He's on pace for a career high this year. And he's had back-to-back 40-point seasons in Colorado, too. So, shout out to him. Best goalie so far this season in terms of wins is Allen in Seattle. Most shutouts so far, Evan Gardner in Columbus again. Save percentage by a starter, Kolzig with a 920. Damn. But Solovyov is also up there. I think right now Kolzig's the favorite for the Vezina, but Solovyov has the best goals against, so it's really going to come down to these two goalies maybe for the Vezina trophy this season. Any goalie goals so far? No. Alright. Best rookie so far, too, is going to be McMuffin with 28 points in 42 games. Alright, so there is that. How's the AHL team doing out of curiosity in terms of simulations? They are 11-19-1. Oof. AHL's having a tough time, which is kind of strange, but it is what it is. Yes, they're not getting enough offense down there, but that's what happens, I guess. All right, final things we got to take a look at. Let's take a look at the trading block just because there's an opportunity to maybe make trades to get people more ice time, but we don't necessarily have to. Our next game against the Kings in next episode apparently also is going to be a big one because both teams have been elite so far, and they're 8-1-1 in their last 10. We're 9-0-1 in our last 10, so just out of curiosity on that. But let's take a look at the trading block. Let's take a look at the trading block, see if there's anything that we could maybe bring in, but I don't know if there's anything I really want to do anyways. But similar players on the block again in Anaheim as they were in the offseason. Their goaltender Dubinsky is on the block. Still is a backup. I don't think we need to upgrade our backup spot again. Just because we have goalies prospects in the system that could end up making it. Kersleg is a defenseman, signed too long. Mathers is a defenseman. Don't really need somebody like him. Landon's not much of anything. Same with Koivunen. Honestly, don't even know if there's a thing I could upgrade on this team because our team is really good, I think, for the most part. Our power play, obviously, we could readjust that second power play unit if we wanted to and put Neil Kynan on it. But aside from that, there's not any way I could get a lot of guys on our roster more ice time, so I might have to just keep with them and then make decisions in the offseason again. But our roster should obviously make the playoffs this year based on how we're simulating, so honestly, I don't know if trades are something that needs to happen or not. Like I said, sometimes when you make trades, it helps out a lot. Sometimes when you make too many trades, though, you end up not going far in the playoffs. So sometimes it's good just to stay with the same roster for the entire playoffs as well. How is Pratt doing in Minnesota out of curiosity? Since Pratt obviously was playing last year good in Seattle. 16 points in 42 games. I guess it's not too bad. I was kind of curious on how he'd simulate again. Anybody else interesting here? Cole Caulfield's still playing. I didn't even realize Cole Caulfield was playing still. I thought he was still I thought he retired because he wasn't on Montreal, but he's in Nashville now. He's playing with Jake Sanderson. Wells, New Jersey. I mean, there are some good players, but I honestly don't think these are the type of depth options I need. I don't really know. Brant Clark. Because I feel like some of our prospects from the AHL may be already developing and ready for the NHL, so maybe I should take a look at the AHL team too, because maybe there are some guys that could just get promoted from the AHL, and then we can move away guys in the NHL that are complaining a bit. That could be something. So I'll look at the AHL team as well. Yeah, I'm not really seeing too much. There's some like decent options. Former backup goaltender Pedro Hainsey. How's he doing in Toronto? 9-17 through 14 games. That's not too bad, but he is the backup goalie, it looks like, for them this season. So shout out to Pedro. Pedro. You know. Utah, nothing. Nothing there. Vancouver. Yeah, I'm not really seeing what I want to see, which I don't even know what I want to see, to be honest, though. So there is all that. Let's go take a look at our AHL team and see if we got any crazy development with our potential prospects. Maybe some guys could come up. Let's see. Kazanov's up to a 77, so he's pretty close. He's actually listed as a depth forward right now, only on 14 points, but in terms of his individual attributes, he is looking pretty good defensively. He could definitely fit into that bottom six role, and we could move out, what is his name? Ellington. Because Ellington's a solid offensive player, but he's listed as a third-line scoring forward despite being on the fourth line. If we move Kazanov up to the NHL and played him in this fourth-line right-wing spot, he wouldn't complain, I think. We could also put Sundin always on the fourth line instead, too, and just leave Kazanov down here. Prince obviously is not really much of anything. Jarvis is another guy that could come up potentially as a depth option that wouldn't complain about ice time. Obviously, we just signed him. He's had a solid AHL start, 17 points. And then in terms of our second line, Mishenko, the top six forwards, actually generating some growth too. That's good to see. He's up to 77. Still a minor scoring forward, so I probably wouldn't call him up, but he's got great passing stats. Probably can make our NHL team next year. Savage up to a 73. It's okay. What about defense? Carlton's up to a 73. He's kind of close. Carlson's up to a 77. Actually listed as a depth defenseman as well, so that's kind of intriguing. All right. Aside from that, nobody else really. And in the goaltending prospects, Komatov hasn't jumped up at all yet. Schultz either. How's Komatov been? He has been really solid, actually. Really solid. He's played 12 games. He's got a 5-6-1 record, but he's got a .918 save percentage. So the 18-year-old is doing well, which is nice to see. So in terms of guys to call up from the AHL, maybe Kazanov or Jarvis, obviously, because Jarvis we signed, but Ellington's going to complain about his ice time if he's in this spot, and he signed for one more year, so maybe it's a good idea to part ways with him and give a chance to the guy in the AHL, or like I said, we could always put Sundin in that spot, because Sundin right now is losing morale because of ice time, so maybe that's the good time to trade away Ellington, throw Sundin in the spot, and in that way Ellington doesn't complain. Nielikainen, I think we could make him not complain by giving him some power play time. So that's probably what we lean towards doing. Haley might complain about ice time as well, though, when he gets scratched again. So if he does, maybe that means we need to trade him and basically call up a guy from the AHL. But we signed Haley as a depth option, but he's been elite as an offensive depth option. So maybe we want to try and just hold on to him and hope that he doesn't complain too much. But yeah, this is still a good-looking roster. I'm surprised we only have literally one gold X Factor on the forward group and one on the defensive group. A lot of X Factors on this team, but sometimes they just don't get it done in the postseason. All right, so there's that. I don't know if there's anything else I need to take a look at. I'm trying to think if there's anything we also need to do. I'm not going to look at the draft class yet because that doesn't matter. How has Dallas been doing, actually? That's one thing I want to take a look at. How Dallas has been doing with Frondell on this team. Let's just see how Frondell's done so far in Dallas, and then we'll also take a look at how they've been doing in the standings. So Frondell is playing next to Gavin McKenna and Dalibor Dvorsky as a top line. That's pretty nice. And so far, Frondell is on 27 points in 39 games. So he's on pace for similar totals to last year. So I don't think he's going to set the world on fire this year, but he's doing okay there for Dallas. They just gave up a lot to get him. It's kind of interesting, though, because they also have Jack Hughes at 38 years old. So, not the strongest Dallas Stars team, but it's still okay. Is that the Lindros that played with us at one point? It is, okay, I thought so. Interesting defensively. They have an okay defensive core. Kind of curious on how this team simulates. They do have Nevins. So they did bring in Nevins from the St. Louis Blues. And he's been really good this season. Actually, they brought him in 5 years ago. I didn't even realize it's been that long. Damn. Thought he was in St. Louis like last season. This team might be decent. Let's take a look at where they are in the standings, just because obviously we do have their first round pick. So I kind of want to know where they're finishing potentially this year. And then I'll be it for this episode after that. But if we look at the entire league right now, where is the Dallas Stars? We'll start from the bottom here, just in case. So they are 19th right now. Does that have them in a playoff spot in the West, out of curiosity? Like, how does the Pacific Division or Central Division look? I know they were in the Pacific at one point, but let's see. They are currently maybe in a wild card spot. Let's go to Western Conference. No, they might be just outside of the playoffs. They might not be a playoff team this year, which is kind of surprising. Now, they could still obviously make it back, but they're not scoring enough. That's one of their main problems. And they're also allowing a bit more goals than they're scoring. Their power play has been dreadful at 8.7%. I'm surprised on that because Frondell was helping our power play quite a bit. Now, he has helped their penalty kill a lot, though. So they're a good defensive team, but not offensively. Well, we'll see if that pick ends up becoming really good for us. Because this year's draft class, who knows, maybe there's a franchise player and we get a first overall pick or something like that. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it. Oh my goodness, and of course my batteries literally die on my controller. That's like the perfect time to end this episode. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of New York Islanders franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll probably simulate the rest of the season. We might make some trades or some changes at least to our lineup a bit. So that way we get people actually okay with their ice time. Like Neil Kinen, like I said, more power play time I think will work for him. Trading Ellington and calling up the guy from the minors or putting Sundin in that spot might not be a bad idea. Or we could find a new left winger via trade and stuff like that. But I think our team's going to obviously make it back to the playoffs again this year based on how we've simulated so far. But I still don't really know what the team needs in terms of our power play and also if we're going to be a good playoff team because we've had some bad success before in the playoffs, but we've been able to get to at least conference finals appearances. So I'm really hoping this year is a year where this team takes that next step and can go to a cup finals and actually win in it too. So hopefully that happens in the next few episodes, but let me know anything down below and I'll see you guys next time.